Wherefore? Part 22. It has been a surprisingly good week for Nerys. She has slept in most days and woken feeling like the sleep did some good. Her head is not so cloudy. Her bones do not feel as lead-covered, and she does not come to every task as though wearing Victorian diving boots. She likes the deep-sea diver image, the metaphor of being trapped in the enormous weighty headgear shut away from the world by excess protection. She recognises herself in the image. Only now she gets to surface sometimes, gets to take off the diving helmet and breathe the air. This has led Nerys to an ambitious plan for going out on her own. It has been years since she has last left the house by herself, and the idea is intimidating, but also attractive. She has the urge to go to the canal. It is not a huge distance away. It is thinkable that she could get there, and day by day her body becomes ever more willing to entertain that thought. There is a cafe right next to the canal. She will walk there, drink tea, rest, and see if she can walk back as well. She thinks about discussing this plan with her mother, but does not want to set Caroline up for yet another disappointment. Instead, she checks out work shifts in the household diary, looks up opening times on the internet, and picks a day when rescue should be easy enough, if needed. Nerys walks. It feels heroic, transgressive, and a bit wobbly. It feels like breaking all the rules that have defined her life in recent years. She is doing it. Her tired body is in motion, and she is going to a cafe. She has raised the funds for this by going through coats, pots, chairs, and other places small change accumulates. She does have a bank account, but there is no money in it at present. By the time she is sat outside the cafe with a pot of tea, Nerys is exhausted. But it is a good sort of exhaustion. It feels substantial and like she earned it, and it makes sense in a way that her exhaustion usually doesn't. This feels like progress. She sips tea. Her tired brain registers something familiar about the person at the next table. She can't think where she knows them from. Not from school, she feels certain. Maybe someone she has encountered through her mother? Nothing comes to mind. It is at that point the wizard Wambleforth turns around and smiles. Nerys feels as if the ground is dropping away beneath her. This is not someone she thinks she has ever seen in her waking life. This is a person she has only ever dreamed about. "How are you doing?" Wambleforth inquires. "You don't look so tired. I hope that means something." Nerys flaps a bit like a fish out of water. "I don't know your name," she says, because of all the many confusing things going on in this situation, this is the easiest bit to articulate. Wambleforth makes introductions. "You're a wizard? I thought they were just folklore." "Very little folklore is just folklore," Wambleforth says. Nerys retreats into tea drinking because it is safer and far more comfortable than trying to talk. "Thanks for coming out," Wambleforth says. "I know it was a lot to ask, but I wanted to catch up in person, see how you were doing." "How do you know me?" Nerys asks, uneasy. "Oh, mostly I see you at night when you're trying to be a beaver, but I wanted to talk to your awake self. How are things going?" Nerys says she is sleeping better, as though this is a normal conversation with a regular person, as though she has normal conversations with people all the time. "I hoped you would. I can't sort out what's happening to you, but I've been directing energy your way." "Thank you," says Nerys. This sounds like something one of her mother's healers would say, only this seems real. "To sort things out, you have to know what you want," Wambleforth says. "Any progress on that score?" Nerys knows this is not the first time she's heard about this, but she does not know how she knows, or when the conversation happened. "Not really," she answers. "I've just been trying to get from one day to the next. I've not had much room for grand plans." "Understandably, but the only way forward is to make a massive change." Do you like being a beaver? I only have these weird dreams I half remember. I don't get much out of being a beaver. Do you want to have your life back? Be a normal human, free from night magic? Nerys hesitates. Who would she be without this? She does not know. It is part of her. Does she want to be ordinary? Could she have a happy life if she didn't spend her time exhausted? What would she do if not this? How can she choose when she does not know what any of it means? If there were no limits, what would you decide to be? Wambleforth inquires. I don't know how to think about that, Nerys begins. I would choose to be happy and not to be bored or lonely. Wambleforth nods encouragingly. Those are good choices. I don't know what would have to change for me to have these things. I don't know how to get there from here. What if the universe could be persuaded to answer that for you, Nerys? Would you take a chance on it? Would you surrender a little to make room for these things? Nerys knows with every cell in her body that this is not a rhetorical question. The answer she gives now will change everything. She is so tired of her life. What is there to lose, really? I surrender, she says. I just want to be happy. It's an odd thing because only at this point does Nerys see that Wambleforth is not alone at the other table. There is a second person whose face is obscured by a big, floppy-brimmed hat, and whose shape is obscured by layers of fabric and a long, loose coat. Was that other person there all along? Nerys isn't sure, and there's a vertiginous quality to the not knowing. The person, who may or may not have been there all along, is packing knitting away into a bag. It is complicated knitting, with more needles and balls of wool than Nerys can make sense of. The knitter takes her scissors and cuts away one of the balls of wool. Nerys jolts as if that cut had some personal significance for her. The knitter stands up. Wambleforth nods like a person acknowledging someone they knew was there all along, a person they did not wish to draw attention to. See you around, the knitter says to Wambleforth. The wizard looks surprised about this, but smiles like this is good news. The knitter then turns to look at Nerys, but even during the looking, Nerys cannot remember anything about the knitter's face. They go. Wambleforth relaxes a bit, and Nerys realises the wizard had been nervous all along. Why are you trying to help me? Nerys asks. Why not? Wambleforth replies. Nerys finishes her pot of tea. Time I was going, Wambleforth announces, pulling a small item from a capacious pocket. If you want to talk to me any time, this is always a good spot, or just tell a duck or something, call my name repeatedly, whatever seems most plausible to you. Good luck with it all. Wambleforth saunters to the edge of the canal and puts a wooden toy boat into the water. For a moment it is a much larger boat, something like a pirate ship in tone, only with more gadgets and cats and sofas than Nerys usually associates with pirates. Wambleforth steps onto the pirate ship, and at once there is only a small wooden toy boat bobbing about in the canal, and no sign of the wizard at all. The little boat moves away, and a moorhen emerges from the bank to accompany it. Nerys rubs her eyes. Real life, it turns out, is far weirder than she had believed while stuck in her room. The world she had imagined is small, tame, and far more predictable than the world in which she currently finds herself living. She pulls out her phone to text her mother for a lift and wonders what, if any of this, she should try and explain. The semi-magical world Caroline occupies had always seemed daft and self-indulgent to disbelieving Nerys. Now it all seems a bit small, unimaginative and mundane. She has taken a stride in some 7-league boots today, but the net result is that she still can't see how to have a meaningful conversation with her mother about anything that is going on in her life.